what I picked as a topic, which I felt very close to me because I have been in outbound sales for quite some time, is navigating complex sales cycle, because this has always been a nightmare for me, especially from the start of my career, actually, right? Understanding what are some of the things to do, not to do, what are some of the things that I can personally gain from the overall experience is like, I've always been someone who craved for learning, right? So when I get into a particular deal, I always want to understand what is something that I can learn new from that particular session or that particular deal, right? What are some of the contingency that you can have in place before even the sales cycle starts? What is a complex sales cycle? What are some of the, like, how can you map a buyer's journey through the entire sales cycle? How can you build stakeholder relationship that are very cohesive so they become eventually your advocate? Obviously handling objections. And also one thing that I'm a personal favorite for me personally is what, like, during a long sales cycle, if you want to keep each other accountable, the prospect and yourself accountable, you need to create something called as a mutual action plan, right? There are templates that are there in the market for everybody to get hold of, but I'm personally a favorite of this because this has personally helped me close a lot of deals, because I put a mutual action plan in place, because that created a lot of accountability. So I want to discuss a little bit there. How can you make your marketing department in your organization your friends and leverage that to close deals? My recent favorite, I wouldn't say recent, I've been tracking this for quite some time and religiously following this. I personally believe when there is a long sales cycle, you need to keep pushing and pursuing about it, because excellence bows to persistence. Unless you don't have the persistence to go after a particular deal, as it becomes harder, it's going to be difficult for you to see through it, right? So persistence is definitely something that you guys need to develop within yourself, and easily not give up on something is something that you need to naturally develop as a salesperson. Awesome. My meme game is going to be definitely through the roof today, so please bear with me. Yeah, contingency to avoid complex sales cycle, right? Even before jumping into a sales cycle, what are certain things that you can do to avoid making it a longer sales cycle, actually, right? Spend massive amount of time, like exorbitant amount of time in lead generation and prospecting, because that's going to help you in research, prospecting, and understanding what sort of a conversation that you're going to get into even before getting into that conversation, right? And the other thing, like proudly saying, Piyush, my previous boss from IM Jobs, taught me this, is create a lead scoring mechanism for all your leads, by the way. Like, for instance, if you're in, let's say, real estate, right? Every lead that you're getting, make sure that you're putting the name, what is the net worth of the buyer is going to be, what sort of an area that they're looking for, are they falling into your target market and segment, and is there high intent to buy the product? So each one of the like category you can rate, and eventually you can rate it out of 10. Like, there can be 5 different things. So for my industry, what I'll do is whether they are a university or a K-12 school, right? And the second thing is I'll look for whether there is advancement professionals who are working within the organization, right? And then last year, how much money did they raise? Are they using any one of my competitors, which is a direct point for me to sell my product there, actually, right? So these, if it adds up to 7+, I'm happy to actually put that as one of my target accounts. So spending as much time that you do before even starting the sales cycle is very, very crucial, right? And always prospect the right accounts. Keep your emotions aside. Do not put emotions into, just because there is a name like Microsoft doesn't mean they're going to buy your product, right? You need to understand whether there is intent to buy a product, whether there is pain currently there in the organization or not, right? So that's super important for you to understand. And the other thing is, do research, but do not stalk. There is a fine line between things. See, the reason why I'm saying do not stalk is you can immediately lose an account even before you're starting something, actually, right? You do not want to be that person. A quick example can be when you're actually doing research about a particular person. That's why I've mentioned identify triggers. You can always identify triggers in 3 different levels. One, to the person. Example can be this person can be a tea lover or a golf enthusiast or things like that, right? That's something which is good, but you do not want to get to a place of when and where he's playing golf next time. Actually, that's creepy and stalking, right? We do not want to get to that level. So you need to understand what is good and what is bad, and understand. And the other thing is you can always personalize the triggers for the title of the person. Like for instance, if you're selling a product to a CFO, you can address a personalized message to the CFO, by the way, right? And then the org level pain points is something that's available in the market. You can always look for it. When you're reaching out to a particular org, make sure that you're identifying the person with the maximum pain that your solution can solve for. Right? Do not randomly reach out to everybody in the org. I would much rather spend 30 minutes of my time spending and doing research about one person rather than just bombarding people with carpet bombing with emails to 5 or 10 prospects within the org, hoping that at least someone will respond back. Right? And spend enough time preparing a killer cadence. Group your accounts into a single group. Like for instance, if there is a lot of IT companies, if there is a lot of real estate companies, if there is a lot of microbiology companies, if there is a lot of industries that are grouped into one, when you're creating cadence, all you have to do is just make minute alterations and then fire it to that particular group. So that's why I'm saying spending time before the sales cycle even starts makes a lot more sense. Always do detailed discovery calls. The discovery is going to make or break your ability to sell, by the way, right? So a detailed discovery is absolutely a must, right? Anywhere between 7 to 10 questions are amazing, by the way, right? Identify what are those specific questions that you want to ask, which is going to give you a clarity that this is a problem that your solution is going to solve. And if there is an intent for them to buy in the next 6 to 12 months, right? Which is what we clearly qualify as a long sales cycle. Have proof of concept ready, have proof of value ready, even before the sales cycle starts. So you don't know when it's going to come in handy for you guys. And I cannot stress this enough. Before you ask for something from your prospect, even for a meeting or a demo, give something first and then ask for it. Because people are innately nice, but you cannot expect something from them without giving something in return. So you need to start showing value right from the start. What can cause a sales cycle to become longer or shorter? You can find some commonalities in all of them, right? A longer sales cycle is something which is anywhere between 6 to 18 months. Anything beyond 18 months, you have lost the deal, actually, right? Somewhere along the line, you have not understood what is going on within the org or anything of that sort, or the discovery has gone redundant at this point. Stakeholders have changed. It could be any one of those things, but anything beyond 18 months, I would give up on those deals, by the way. What else can cause a sales cycle complex is multiple stakeholder groups. Like for instance, you are selling the same product within multiple departments within the same org. While you're increasing the scope, that can also be causing the sales cycle to go up. Constantly changing project scope. This is one of the biggest pain point any salesperson will go through their career especially when you're selling into bigger orgs. They keep the project scope keeps changing, by the way. So you need to identify a way to lock it in very early on, so you can work towards it, and the prospect also understands what it is and what is expected out of your project, by the way. Complicated internal processes, by the way. So one of the other things during the discovery call that I personally like to do is, what are some of the internal processes that I need to be aware of? How long is the legal process is going to take? What are the internal paper processes that are available? Is there an RFP that needs to be raised? Is there an IT review that needs to happen? All those things, it's very, very important for you to understand very early on. And obviously, another thing that will also cause a deal to go very complex is if you have not done a very thorough discovery. Okay. Some of the commonalities that you can identify, especially in a complex sales cycle, are industries. You can group them, right? So some of the industries that you can actually see this is B2B, regardless of what B2B it is. It might be complex when you go up market and then enterprise. Telecom industry is one of the most complex that I've ever seen. Finance can be complex because there are multiple ever-changing rules and regulations that keep coming in. Software consulting services, another one, because the client scope keeps changing here and there, actually, right? Another thing which you need to keep in mind, I'm not sure how many of you are familiar with this, executive sponsorship should be very, very high. You need to loop in your leadership into the conversation quite early on once you understand there is intent to buy, because you need to bring in all the big guns for you to close that particular deal. You cannot leave your boss not involved in the conversation until unless negotiation comes into play. You need to loop them in very, very early on, right? And the other thing is any TCV or any ACV which is above $500,000 in annual contract value can be considered as a longer sales cycle. Usually the contracts will be multi-year, and the urgency to buy a product will be low. Unless it's an inbound that has come in. I've seen even inbounds, the urgency level to buy your product will be very, very low. And their ability to do due diligence will be extremely high, right? So you need to be prepared for this before going into these sort of complex sales cycle, by the way. Map buyer's journey, right? See, anybody who goes through a buying cycle will go through these stages. Typically, what you can see on Google and stuff is awareness, consideration, and decision, right? Awareness is when they understand there is a pain. That's when they start doing research for the product that they want to buy, right? And the other thing is they have considered what are the products that they've finally shortlisted. There are about 10 products in the market. There are about 2 to 3 that they want to talk to, do demo with, understand what kind of product offerings that they have. So this is where your online reviews come into play, your G2, all of that comes into play, where they do the research to understand how credible you are as a solution for the prospect. And the other thing is decision phase, right? Once they've gone through all of this, finally they are getting to a place where they decide that you are the vendor of choice, and then they go through all the decision and the internal processes to buy a product. And the other two, which are also crucially very, very important for you, if renewal is part of your KRA and KPIs, is service and loyalty, right? Service is something, once they buy the product, how is their experience using the product? How is your customer support looks like? How is your customer solutions looks like? How is your customer success manager is behaving with that particular person? It's super important for them to move from a prospect to a customer to your advocate. That's when you can ask for case studies, you can ask for testimonials and all of that, actually. So it's important that you spend through and through with the customer to move them from awareness stage to a loyalty stage. If you have new business, new sales, and also renewal sales as part of your KRAs and KPIs. If new business is the only thing that's part of your business, I'm assuming that the company already have a customer success manager who takes care of the renewal part. So right after the decision stage, you can move out, and then service and loyalty will fall into the customer success team, actually. Building stakeholder relationships, right? Very, very crucial for you to be successful when it comes to your long, complex sales cycles, right? In today's context, always assume your prospects are smarter than you. Always assume your prospects are smarter than you. Because if you try to be ingenuine on the call, if you try to say something which is untrue, which is not true, right? It's going to come out at some point in time, which is going to ruin your and your company's brand equity. You don't want to be in that kind of a place. Okay. So always get into the conversation with the assumption that your customer knows more than you, and then have a conversation. You will come from a place of empathy and also from a place of genuinity, actually. Okay. And second thing, like I mentioned, be ready to go above and beyond before you ask something from your prospect. And when you're working with the company, you need to categorize the stakeholders into 3 groups. 1, you need to know who is signing the checks for you at the end of the day. Second thing is, who is going to be your champion? And the other thing is, who is going to be your influencers? These three people are super, super crucial for you guys when you're working with some enterprise level orgs, right? Champion is someone, like the simplest of explanation for champion is someone who is selling your product when you're not there in the room. He is your champion. And I've also put together like a quick statistics for any 60 days sales cycle, right? You should have spent at least 2 hours of personal time with your champion for them to even qualify to become your champion. Actually, if someone is helping you close the deal, that someone can actually be the person who is experiencing the maximum pain also. Sometimes they can be the user and as well as the champion. They can be the user, champion, and also the influencers. So you need to understand who that person is. Yeah, it's super important that you spend as much time as possible. And this is not the 2 hours that you need to genuinely talk to someone about your products. You can actually connect with them on a personal front also, right? Because this is a relationship that you are going to, like, for people who have been selling for more than 10 years will definitely know contacts are super, super important. So it's okay if someone genuinely tries to connect with you and have a conversation, spend the 2 hours with them, spend that 4 hours with them, because at the end of the day, they are going to help you make or break that particular deal, by the way. Okay. So spend the time, always plan in front. Like this is where your research and prospecting will come in handy. If you have done the right research, you will know what kind of a question you shouldn't ask, right? And what kind of questions you should ask. So always make sure that you are asking the right questions. And the other thing for you to also understand whether you have trust with your stakeholder is if they are if you are able to understand that they are proactively giving you information even without you asking for it. That's an amazing way to understand if they are your champion and you have built the trust with that person or not. Handling objections, right? See, generally objections can be what, why, and how, right? It's, again, I am trying to connect this all to your discovery call as much as possible. If you have asked the right questions, you will be able to anticipate what kind of a objection that you're going to get from your prospects, actually, right? What I would personally do is when you're actually talking to a prospect, even before them bringing up the most common objections that you can expect for, like for instance, hey, how are you how are you better than your competitor X, or how are you better than your competitor Y, right? These are questions, even without them asking, if you're able to proactively answer, it shows that you're confident about your product and your solution, actually, right? Until waiting for it, like you're just trying to circumvent and not answer that question. Never do all of that, actually, right? Try to always address this head on. And if at any given point in time, right? Any given point in time, if you feel like your product is not going to solve their solution, walk away from it. Walk away from it. It's okay. At least you would have built the trust with the prospect that they will, at any given point in time, if they want to reevaluate you, they will think of you first because you had the genuinity in you to walk away from the deal stating that this is not something that you will be able to solve. And when someone is actually objecting to something which you have not anticipated, do not try to answer the objection immediately. Always try to understand where the objection is coming from. For instance, if someone is actually saying your product is costly, right? The word costly is a very relative term, right? You should try and understand what they are comparing you with. For hey, you're mentioning that you're saying Almabase is a product which is actually on the premium segment. I 100% agree. We are on the premium side of things. Can I also understand who are you comparing us with? So what happens here is you're trying to put the ball on their court and asking questions from a place of understanding where their objection is coming from. If they're saying, hey, I've been evaluating Graduate and Almabase. So what you can actually let them know at that particular point in time is 100%. We are 20% premium than Graduate. But having said that, these are the additional features that you're getting on top of buying the product, actually, right? Which I believe currently Graduate is missing to offer. Do you feel that's going to compensate for the premium that you're paying? Do you now find value in purchasing Almabase as a product, actually, right? So you can be coming from a place of strength rather than immediately trying to answer the question. So always lead an objection with another question which is open-ended, so you'll be able to learn more from that particular objection, actually. And always be gracious. Do not say your competitor is shit. Your competitor do not have the best of the products. Never ever get into that sort of an argument, actually. Okay. It's not very gracious. It's not something that you want to get into. Yeah, it's completely all right. To sometimes, even if the prospect is actually like all over the place, they are actually like claiming that product can actually even take them to the moon and rocket and all of that. It's completely all right. You tell them that that's not something that we'll not be able to offer at this point. If you feel that anything in the scope of the project changes in the future, please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help, actually. Right? Yeah, share real life. When it comes to handling objections, another way that I have personally benefited in the past is sharing real life examples. Right? Specifically in my current industry, referrals help a lot. When you have enough customers that you are already cultivated to an advocate level, they will talk how good your product is for you, right? Rather than you trying to explain, actually. So that's something that you need to spend some time on cultivating, actually. I can probably spend another minute or two in answering specific objections that you have in mind, actually. My favorite topic, mutual action plan. So I'll just quickly help you guys understand what is a mutual action plan and when to introduce that, and then move on to the points that I've created. A mutual action plan is something that is a framework that you create, or a plan that you create along with your prospect, in defining who are the internal stakeholders that they will be working with your org, and who are the external stakeholders that you will be working from your end to in their org, actually, on multiple steps. You will also try and understand what are the internal processes that they have, which is going to take how much time it's going to take, actually, well in advance. So for instance, if you're working with your champion, they let you know that the legal process takes about 1 month, and the like where you need to capture the data simultaneously while the evaluation is going on, you need to start the legal process. So that's not taking another 1 month and delaying your signature date, actually. So you need to capture every single step of what's going to happen, what is the next step, who are the people who are going to be involved, what are some of the decision making process that's going to get involved, what are the internal processes that are there, what are the documents that needs to be filled from your end and their end. If there is an internal vendor document, new vendor registration that needs to be created, all of that you can check and create as a step along with the prospect, so you can create that accountability between the both of you. It's sort of like, think of creating a task list even before a deal gets closed, by the way. Most of us will create tasks within the HubSpot to follow up with the prospect, but you're also creating this and putting a task list on the customer, so the customer will not be shocked when you call suddenly on 25th of September and letting them know, hey, I'm waiting for the legal procedure documents, can you send it across? Because you have already confirmed with the prospect and put it in writing, by the way. And what you should also do is create this mutual action plan and loop their money guy as early as possible, so he is aware that your champion is evaluating a product like this. A mutual plan can again be as exhaustive as possible. You can start from giving a quick summary of what Almabase is, because some of the products will not, some of the stakeholders might not be part of the through and through evaluation process, right? So you can actually describe what is the summary, what is Almabase bring, like what is your product bring to the table, what is the ROI that the company is going to get out of it, what is the current state and the future state after they implement your product, what is the pricing look like, and stuff. And then you can move on to the list of dates and dependencies between both the people. And then you can also send it across to all the people and get it vetted. The most important step is not creating the mutual action plan, but to get it validated by your stakeholders, by the way. Because you can put whatever you want, but if they don't acknowledge that you have created this as a task, you're still at the loss, right? So you need to also get it validated by your stakeholders, by the way, especially your champion, right? So yeah, quickly, some of the points that you need to keep in mind while you're creating a mutual action plan creates extreme accountability on both sides, by the way, right? And it will be even more high if you have the money guy involved through and through in the process, right? You'll be able to maintain the sales cycle without getting elongated more than it should be. If the sales cycle is supposed to be 80 days or 70 days or 90 days, it will fall within this timeline if you have a mutual action plan. This will save so much time for both of you guys because you're keeping each other accountable and honoring the time frame. And you will also be able to understand where it's causing the delay at the end of the deal cycle also, right? And this is super important for your manager to have visibility on how you're doing, how your entire deal cycle is going through without even having a conversation with you, right? So it helps create a framework from start to end. Always work backwards. When you're creating a mutual action plan, start from when they want to have a product like this in place, right? When are they anticipating to go live with a product like this, and then work backwards. So that way they will also understand, if I have to honor this, these are some of the steps that I need to have completed before I get to this number. So you can also use that as a step if anything is delaying. Hey, for instance, let's say the legal procedure is taking more than 1 month, which is what they have promised. You can let them know, hey, you mentioned that the go live date for you is on September 1st, but I'm still waiting on the signature from the legal team, which is going to elongate the process by another 3 days because the implementation takes about 2 to 4 days, 2 to 4 weeks. So I want to keep you informed about it. So that way you're also creating urgency by putting their words in their own mouth. And it also creates tremendous ROI in value. When you're by the way, like, let me rephrase that. You need to provide ROI first as a value. And the signature date that comes out of it will be the outcome for you. Okay. So mutual action plan clearly depicts that. Like I said, always validate with your stakeholders whether the mutual action plan is up to date, whether all the process and steps are on point. Yeah, like I mentioned, always make sure to keep the money guy informed from early on. One of the tools that we have recently purchased in our org, which seems to be extremely valuable, is Accord. Accord is built for mutual action plan. So yeah, we have recently purchased. It's proving to be tremendous value, where I personally, as a manager, have so much visibility on who are the stakeholders, what are the decisions that they're making, what are some of the communications and conversation, which is creating that roadblock and all of that actually. Yeah, so mutual action plan, if your deal cycle is anywhere between 60 and above, please make sure that you're creating one actually. Sorry, 6 months and above, please make sure to create one. And my favorite people in the org, marketing folks, I personally see them as friends. I'm not sure about all the salespeople. But yeah, make friends with your marketing folks. They should never be your foe, by the way. I'm just letting you know. I know it's a controversial statement for a lot of salespeople. I'm not sure how your internal dynamic is with the org, but personally for me, in my org, marketing folks are one of my best friends. The reason why I'm saying this is because they have the market insights that you need for you to become successful. If you think marketing is just a byproduct of, like, they're just bringing leads to you, no, it's not. Marketing team has something called as a PMM, product marketing managers, who create contents for you, who create collaterals for you, who create case studies for you, testimonials for you. These are super criticals. So always make friends with them, have conversations with them. If you are very diligent, if you're aspiring to be one of the biggest, like the best salesperson out there, you will set up even a 1 hour session with your PMM every month just to have a casual catch up, to try and understand what's happening in the market, what are some of the insights that they're actually seeing, how is the customer feeling about the product and stuff like that. Even before you're feeling the pain, by talking to a prospect, they will be able to indicate where that pain might be coming from. So it's super crucial for you to actually be friends with the product marketing folks. And the second thing is, in my org, I'm super happy. All the orgs that I've always worked with, they've always segregated the collaterals that you're sending based on the level of the lead funnel. Some of the leads might be in the top of the funnel. Some of them might be middle of the funnel. Some of them might be bottom of the funnel. You cannot share a collateral which is supposed to be sent at the top of the funnel at the bottom of the funnel. For instance, let's say a customer is asking for a collateral that can clearly show them the implementation time period. You cannot share this at the starting top of the funnel. No, it's not going to make sense for anybody because they have not even shown intent to buy the product. So you need to segregate and keep all of them segregated. So you know what type of a collateral needs to be shared at what stage. I'm not sure if it's too advanced for certain people when I'm mentioning bottom of the funnel, top of the funnel, and middle of the funnel. Like this is a SaaS specific conversation, but I'm just letting you all know. Please have your collaterals collected from your product marketing or marketing person, which is super crucial for you to actually sell, because you need to create that narrative and story with your prospects for you to be able to sell better, right? And the other thing, if you're going enterprise, if you're in the leadership level, please have a conversation with your marketing folks to create something called as a customer roundtable, by the way, right? If you're early on, you're trying to scale, if you're trying to go enterprise, it's super critical that customer marketing is something that you need to do, because nobody can sell your product better than your customers, not even your best salespeople. Even today, if any marketing people out there knows, so word of mouth converts 85% still. Not even your SEO or TV ads or newspaper sells faster. So word of mouth can only come from your customer, not from anybody else, right? So you need to cultivate your customer into your advocates. It's super crucial. Yeah, always leverage data-based collaterals. Do not randomly send case studies. Always back it up by what is it that the data that like them utilizing your product led to in terms of data. By the way, people trust data at the end of the day, right? Data is the next biggest thing out there. So it is not gold, it's not petrol, it's data today. So always create collaterals with data. And the other thing, it's super important, very underrated as a collateral. Ensure to always ask for your marketing team to build something called as build versus buy when you're going enterprise. Because an org which is currently having $1 billion in revenue will not always look for a product to buy from outside. So you need to be able to show them value as to why it's crucial for them to buy the product from you rather than building it from internal, like internal teams that they might be having. They might be having a 10,000 member IT team which can build the product that they want. But you need to show them value as to why it's crucial for them to buy the product from you rather than, building the product internally. So when you're selling to an enterprise company, it's super important for you to figure this out and build this from within your marketing team. Yeah, like I said, again, even though your content is created by the product marketing team, you need to be able to personalize your content when you're sharing this collateral with your prospect. Just sharing the collateral alone will not help you close the deal. Momentum and adaptability, like I said, this is directly tied to the proverb that I mentioned at the start. Keep pushing and keep pursuing. Persistence will always lead you to success, excellence, right? How you can do that is by keeping the momentum and adaptability through and through the sales cycle, by the way, right? You need to be able to adapt to the ever-changing scope, ever-changing problems that are arising, ever-changing things that are being thrown at you by the prospects. So be ready for all of that, actually, right? How you can actually stay consistent if you're doing all of the above that I mentioned. Enterprise is not easy. It's really hard. Unless you have a specific set of skill set and mind, it's going to be super difficult. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to let you know that you need to develop a separate set of skill set for you to be successful in enterprise sales. So you need to regularly be in touch with your prospects. Consistency is the key. Always have the next step in place. Be flexible, be adaptable. Just do random check-in, right? Your next step is to put in the calendar for, let's say, 2-3 weeks out. Just randomly ping them on their birthdays, or let's say national holiday, or like over the weekend, asking if they like wine. There's a wine tasting competition that's happening nearby, whatever it is, right? Just randomly ping them, try to check in on them. Like one of the things, I know it's not a joke, but like randomly there are mass shooting that's happening in US, right? One of the things that we always as an org do is we check in with our prospects, ensuring that they are okay because of this, if it's happening in that particular state. Like recently in US, the Maui, the state of Hawaii was completely destroyed, actually, right? So we just created a banner to support that. We sent out all the emails just to make sure that if they're okay, if they needed anybody to talk to, just feel free to reach out to them. It's not like they're not immediately going to pick up the call and call you, right? But you being there and randomly checking in, it's super crucial, by the way, right? This is very, very important. I'm not sure how any human, like you need, again, that's why I'm saying it's important for you to build this as a bone internally. But when it comes to a particular deal, never get emotionally attached to it. When you get emotionally attached to a particular deal, you will not be able to see the red flags. If something is going against you, you will not be able to see that if you're too emotionally invested in it. Even if that's the only goal that's going to get you that 10 lakh rupee worth of incentive at the end of the year, right? Even if that's going to make or break your entire bank, do not be emotionally invested. Always depend on what are the next steps supposed to be, whether your prospect is invested, he's a champion for you, is he able to influence the money guy, is things happening on time, and things like that. Always be taking decisions based on that and not by emotionally invested in it. Otherwise, it'll be too hard. It's like a doctor not being emotionally attached to his patient. I would directly connect the sales folks to them being emotionally attached to their deals. It's as easy as that. You cannot be, because then you will not be objectively able to address anything. You'll keep saying yes to everything that they're asking. If you're too emotionally attached, right? Even like salespeople, one of the things that we generally do is we'll over promise and under deliver later on, actually. Right? If you're too emotionally attached, at some point in time, they're going to ask something from you, which you're going to say, okay, this is something that we will be able to honor, but actually something that you will not be able to honor, which is going to impact you. Either the customer is going to churn, or that's going to impact your brand equity a lot by them just posting something random on a review site. Actually, you don't want any of that. So never be emotionally invested, which is super, super important when you're doing something which is in the long term, actually, right? Selling for complex sales cycles. This is something that I coined yesterday when I was developing this. There is something called as seller's mirage, right? Seller's mirage is I'm super proud about this. I'm going to keep talking about this to my team in the upcoming deal reviews and forecast meetings. But seller's mirage is something that you actually go through if you're too emotionally invested in it, right? One thing that I personally did when I was actually doing handling deals by myself and closing independently is see if I can be my own devil's advocate, right? Ask all the questions my manager is going to be asking to me. That's another way to understand if you're doing the right things by your prospects and by the org, by the way. Yeah. Be your own devil's advocate. That's the best way to figure out whether to understand whether you're going in the right direction or not. Yeah. Quick insight into Ram's sales career after the webinar. Ram, when he followed all the tips and tricks, you can make a lot of money. Yeah, Ram, when he missed a couple of steps, yeah, you're not making any money. So please make sure that you're following all the tips and tricks. Yeah. See, seller's mirage is something that mirage is something that if you're going in highway, right, there is some sort of a inability to see what's beyond certain points. Sellers go through this when they are emotionally invested in a particular deal. For instance, I have been working on a particular deal for, let's say, more than 6 or 7 months. I would have built relationship with the prospect. The prospects and I would have probably gone out for lunch. The prospect would have promised me a lot of things. There is a relationship that you're building, because of which you have already also thought about your commissions. Okay, if it closes for this much amount, I'll get this much commission. I've also put in this much time, because of which the eventual goal is this much amount that I'm going to get. So all of this, which directly impacts you from objectively seeing whether that deal is actually moving in the right direction or not, right? So that's what I call as seller's mirage. So you need to always approach a deal from an objective standpoint by understanding whether your prospect is giving you all the information, whether he's honoring all the information or not, honoring all the deadlines that he has given to you, whether he's putting you in touch with the money guy when you're asking for it. Is he selling your product when you're not there in the room? All of this is what is supposed to give you the ability to make the decision that whether this deal is going in the right direction or not. Not able to decide then you're having seller's mirage. Executive sponsorship is, let's say you're having a deal that is more than, let's say $500,000 in value, or one of your biggest deals. I'm saying executive sponsorship is people who can take decisions instantaneously on the call, like your manager or your CEO. So what happens for on this is you're impressing the prospect, because the prospect is thinking that the deal is so important. The CEO of the org itself is on the call. The second thing is you're able to take decisions on the call, which you not even thought was possible. Like earlier, they would have asked for a 30% discount. Now you had to go and check with your manager. Your manager need to check with your CEO. All of that would have happened. All of that you can just cut through the bureaucracy bullshit actually, and then close the deal on the call itself. If there is a VP of sales, or if there is a head of sales, if there is a manager who is equipped to take those decisions, it's based on the ability to take the decision. That's what I call as executive sponsorship. I'm a fan of consultative selling. I ask questions and make the customer answer those questions actually. So that's how I learn from the customer as to what they want. So at any given point in time, if I feel like what they're asking is out of the scope or unrealistic for me to deliver, right, where I'm not going to even break even, I should be willing to walk away. Just let them know that, see, at this point in time, I don't believe we can work together, because what you're asking for and what we can deliver is not meeting. Let's say if it's a pricing conversation, I'll give you a simple example. Let's say what they're asking is unrealistic. Gone back and forth, at some point in time, you need to take a call. Sometimes walking away will also get you the deal, by the way. The customer might be, just playing with you. So sometimes you have to just let them know, see, what you're asking for is something which is not meeting our break-even point also. So selling you is going to be a downside for us. So I don't want to be working with I don't want to be us in a place where there is, there is no value that we both are adding for each other. So that's why I feel like this is not helping. At any given point in time, if your scope of your project, or if there is more budget that you can allocate for this project, feel free to come back. I'll be happy to help you at any given point in time. 100% at all given points in time. How else will you meet your targets month on month? Unless you create urgency with your customers, you will not be able to meet your quota. If there is a possibility that your customer is able to sign the contract today, but they are delaying it to sign it by next month, why would you not create the urgency? Let them know that, see, your go live date is on September 5th. You said you will have to sign by October 15th. You have not still signed. I just want to make sure that both of us are understanding each other, that your delay of go live date is being moved to, let's say, October 10th. So that way, that's putting a urgency in their head that they want to sign it today rather than one day delayed actually.